delicious surprise. It's a very special cake. I want you kiddies to have the first piece.
Good morning.
Good morning. We've talked the whole night.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. It's great to stay up late. Good morning. Good morning to you.
I have no idea how she did all the things she did. She's not made like other people. She does good deeds. A lot of them.
Good morning. Sunbeams will soon smile through.
My mom was never afraid to call somebody up and say, hey, so-and-so, come on down here and help us out and let's raise some money to do this. She was never shy. When she called you, you know, people would run for cover. Oh, my God.
Debbie Reynolds, discovered as a teenager in a Burbank beauty contest in 1948.
My mother grew up right down the street from Warner Brothers Studio, but was not interested in being in the business. She wanted to be a gym teacher. So even though she drove by this great studio, she never dreamed that one day she'd be having a screen test there with Danny Kaye in 1948. And that is what led to MGM picking up her contract.
MGM just put her in class with Elizabeth Taylor, with Roddy McDowell, and they gave them speech lessons and posture. And if it turned out that you could dance, you could sing.
Acting lessons led to bit parts,
Please put these in the East Room.
which led to a surprise hit. Then, Singin' in the Rain.
Singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, we're happy again.
Debbie struggled to keep up with Gene Kelly and Donald O'Connor. Exhausted and frustrated, she collapsed under a piano, where Fred Astaire found her and invited her to watch him rehearse his own routines. Fred taught Debbie that there was no easy way. Soon, an Oscar nomination.
We're going to sing.
Not with Molly Brown on board. That ship may be down, but not me. I'm unsinkable.
The role of the unsinkable Molly Brown is truly at the core her. When she fought to get that role, it was for a good reason. It's her all over.
I'm gonna see what there is to see. So if you go from nowhere on the road to somewhere and you meet anyone, you know it's me.
Very early in my mother's career, she was taken by the studios and by Operation Entertainment to Korea. And she did a couple of different tours there where she entertained the troops and she went to the hospitals and saw the injured soldiers. I think it really shaped her in certain ways as to what her future humanitarian work was going to be.
You have to remember that Debbie grew up a Girl Scout. And so maybe the motto really got impressed on her that she had to do for others.
In 1955, Debbie helped create the Thalians.
It's the occasion of the 42nd Annual Thalians Ball.
For decades, the Thalians held an annual gala and raised millions of dollars to build an entire wing at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center.
There wasn't a mental hospital at Cedars-Sinai Hospital. So she sort of started what this town was going to need quite a bit of, which was treatment for the mentally ill. That sort of spilled over into drug abuse, so that she had an awareness that it needed to be cared for. Not objected to, cared for.
And each year there are more than 30,000 outpatient visits.
And in addition to their extraordinary support over the years for general mental health services, they've now really declared a specific interest in what we've come to call the invisible wounds of war, the treatments for both traumatic brain injury and PTS.
Operation Mend provides care free of charge to wounded warriors and their families.
I remember hearing an explosion and then blacking out. Luckily, while I was blacked out was the time where I was engulfed in flames. My battle buddies came to my rescue and put me out with a couple fire extinguishers, and I slowly regained consciousness. Debbie Reynolds and the whole organization of the Thalians has really impacted my life personally, because without their help, we might not have the awareness or the diagnoses or the treatments that we do have right now. I'm so thankful for being alive and the work that they've done for me and given me almost like a second chance.
Debbie was innovative in recognizing the value of Hollywood's heritage.
1,000 a bid.
A lot of people don't care about preservation, and they just think it's a lot of junk. Well, I think it's history. We are trying now to save the films, preserving them, restoring them, but what about our costumes and all the sets? That's what I bought at the MGM auction in 1970. I just bought everything I could afford to do. I went to the bank, I borrowed money. I bought every Academy Award movie.
If it wasn't for my mother, we would have far less preserved important pieces of Hollywood memorabilia.
Debbie brought her celebrity, her personality, her drive, her never say die attitude. She brought that to all of us.
My mother was involved in every single need that came along. Somehow she managed to make time to be a mother, to be a celebrity, and to do her job for the studio. It was truly an amazing juggling act.
She's basically saying, if she can do it, you can do it. And all of us can do anything if we help each other. You can tell people all you want, but it's walk it. And so she walks it. There's a lot of walking and tapping.
Okay, great.
There you go.
Hello, everybody, and it is Saturday, September 11th, 2021, 20 years after 9/11, and we stayed home all day. We just watched every single documentary, everything. We watched it nonstop because today is a day to remember. And they say never forget, but I like to say always remember, because it is just a solemn day for all of us. And we looked for something to play as an opener of the show, but everything was very, very sad, and we've been really wanting to honor everybody tonight and keep it respectful and be there for each other, because I think that America felt this day more so than in even past recent anniversaries of 2001, September 11th. So with that said, I'm really happy that you're all here. We wanted to just talk about this day and how it was for all of us. And we're not going to have an auction tonight because we didn't think that's appropriate for any reason. And then we struggled about whether we were going to give prizes away, but you know what? I think that that's okay.
Oh, where God forbid we stopped the
well,
nothing
I do
could
think
stop
that.
that.
That's okay.
And we didn't even cut down on how many either.
No. But I would really want to.
Not even 9/11 could stop the gifts from flowing.
Okay, well, you know. But what I really wanted to say was that, everybody remembers where they were on this day, and so we're going to talk about that, and also we're here to honor the fallen, and we're also here to honor our current military, our current law enforcement, and just give them so much love, the fire department. And when we watched this today, I have been wanting to do this for years, but I never had the time. I just would always have 100 things come up in front of me, so I made sure I got everything done by Friday night so that I could watch everything today. And I realized that I never saw most of the actual footage that we saw today from September 11, 2001, because I was out of town and I was flying home to New York City that very morning. And so I was so busy trying to figure out how to get home and that I never saw the original footage. So today, I did a lot of, it was a very emotional to watch. I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of you watched it today.
Oh,
But it was, watching President Bush get up with the firemen, and to think that he went down there and he was retired and he ended up being the one that helped him up.
And the fireman.
Yes.
But the thing is, we know
moment.
We had whatever you want to say about Bush.
Yeah.
That he rose to that moment.
Oh yes.
Because people love to run all the Bush gaffes when he'd walk into the wrong door.
Yeah.
It was always that kind of a thing. But when the guy got up with the fireman, and he gets interrupted, he says, "I hear you." Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
He was talking at that very moment to everybody in the country, and he's
Mhm.
ad-libbing. There's no teleprompter, no stumbling around.
He didn't even know what he was going to say.
No, but he felt that moment, and he spoke from his heart.
And he
it
put
was
himself
it
in a
was-
vulnerable position
Oh.
because it was wide open.
Oh, yeah.
They were standing on
walking
terrace of
amongst
ground.
not only the fire and law enforcement people, but just like you say, ground level, just and spent hours there, and then afterwards went over and spent hours meeting and greeting everybody and hugging people, and just didn't get on a public address system, didn't have a teleprompter, just went and led and supported us. It was when you needed a president that had some gravitas, and there was a confidence that was gained by his vulnerability, but at the same time his strength. You could see when he's wandering around, you feel it. And then of course when he says, I hear you, and there's others that are going to be hearing from us soon. That's
who created this?
Yes, but we
wanted,
we wanted a little vengeance there. We wanted a little retribution.
Well, we also wanted leadership, and what I didn't realize was that he was only 6 months into his
right. What a walk-in
presidency. I mean, can you imagine having that put on you? And it's unbelievable. The whole story was astonishing.
The horror of it all, is apparent, but it's what you do after that really counts. It's like it's too late to stop it. It already happened. So now what? Do we all sit around and put our head in the sand like a bunch of ostriches? Do we all do nothing? What do we do? That's the question. And in life, this is the question. When you're presented with very difficult circumstances, what you do next. That's already, whatever happened. Now what? My mother was an expert at rising to the occasion.
At the now what?
Now what? Or rising to, running to the roar.
Right.
That's what we did. And as a country, there was something else that happened there that's long since desperately needed to be brought. And that was immediately everybody was an American. And there was a pride and a very powerful sense of patriotism.
Absolutely. Remember
like I've never felt in my life.
The roar that came from all of the workers down there when President Bush spoke up on that ladder, and
I hear you.
And then they were roaring.
Isn't that what we all wanted at that moment?
It is, and we need to have that again, because
well, we
that
don't
is
have.
true.
Well, here's the problem. We don't have leaders that can hear us.
Well, yes.
We don't.
No,
I'm talking on both sides.
Mhm.
They're all off on some other agenda. And I'm not saying everybody, but there are a lot of major mainstream leaders that are caught up and could not possibly hear us because they're too busy with their own agenda. And if you think about this, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. Now, if we're a republic, the democracy is what you use to elect representatives in government. That is what a republic is. That is, people screw this up all the time. Those people were hired by us and voted by us to represent us. Where is the I hear you? From all of them, of each and every one of your states that you live in. Where is maybe they are listening to you, I hope they are. But if they're not, they sure as hell should be. Because one thing that just echoes in my consciousness is when Bush said, I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Where are those politicians today?
So as we talk about this, I'd like everybody to kind of reflect in the posts and messages below where you were that day, what you were doing, and we'll do the same, because I think that is one of those moments. It's like most of us are of the age where we could say, where were you when JFK was shot? I was in first grade. I remember coming over the loudspeaker. But I remember 9/11.
Well, you're older and more conscious. You know, when JFK was killed, we were children.
Right.
And we understood.
We
felt it. It was intense.
We felt the emotions of the adults also.
You know what? I was watching a black and white TV when Kennedy was shot, and it was just Carrie and I in the den. And what we felt was Walter Cronkite and people on the TV. There was no adult in the room yet. And then my mother came in and tried to explain what was going on. But that was a great example of we felt the emotion from the television set, from great news reporters. Where are those people? Speaking of missing in action, where is Walter Cronkite when we need him? Anyway, the point, though, is the 9/11 thing, though, everybody remembers. I mean, I know exactly where I was and what I was doing and what I was watching. I was watching the whole thing unfold. And Carrie and I called each other almost immediately into the first tower. And the first thing we said was, holy shit, my mom's in New York right now. My mother had gone to go see Michael Jackson with Elizabeth, a Michael Jackson concert in New York.
With Elizabeth Taylor?
With Elizabeth Taylor. And so they were there. So they had gone to the show on the 10th of September, that evening. They went back to their different hotels. September 11th happens. And Carrie and I are going, whoa, my mom is in New York. And so we can't reach her because there's no cell phone service. Because most of the cell phones in New York City were off of the towers on top of the towers. So cell phone service is cut off for many, many people. We can't reach her. We don't have a clue what's going on. But behind the scenes, and I do tell this story, and I won't read it. I brought this up with Kat, but I tell this story.
Lisa Eaton was just saying that this story is in your book.
Right. So starts on page 286. I'll just tell the story, but it started in my book around 286 pages in because I'm long-winded. It takes 286 pages to get to this story. But that is so my mother gets a phone call from Liz, well, actually from her assistant, who says, hey, why don't you come over here with us? We're all stranded.
Where was Elizabeth Taylor staying? What part of the city?
Oh, no, they weren't far apart, but
But what were they? Uptown, midtown, downtown?
Well, my mother likes wherever, she liked, what was the one that she liked?
She liked the Lucerne, which was on Upper West Side.
And the Lenox or something. Anyway, in my book, I actually had the names of the hotels and everything relevant, but I didn't want to get into that kind of detail.
Well, we don't need to, but
no, but the point
they
is,
weren't at the same hotel.
No, but my mother packed up her stuff and went. My mother would do this. She loved shows. She would like to go to shows, and she loved Michael, and they had a special relationship.
Yep.
And so they hung out and did their thing. Everybody goes their way, and so now it's Liz. Imagine backstage that night with Liz Taylor and my mom and Michael Jackson. I mean, where's that story? That had to have been a fascinating story.
We weren't there, so we couldn't tell it.
No, in fact, my mother didn't write about it either. No one bothered to ask her that question. Good question. Anyway, Liz is like, come be with me. So by the time we reach her, she's gone from her hotel. So we're
and you didn't know where she went.
Right. So we're like, wait. So So there's Carrie and I are a little concerned, obviously.
I'm wondering if at that point, after everything happened, because today we watched a show where we heard all the cell phone calls that were going in and out of the World Trade Center, in particular from the trading company. So I'm wondering if cell service was impossible.
What you were listening to was
after they both came down.
Yeah. So what happens is, a lot of things went down when the tower went down because cell
phones weren't what we have today either.
But don't forget the towers, when it dropped into that enormous hole, it severed the water lines. This was a story that I didn't know until recently. The Spike Lee documentary covers the fact that the fires had to be fought using the river water from the Hudson, using
I like
fire
that
boats.
documentary, by the way.
I
think
too.
he did a great job. So if you want to watch something good on this,
well, it's interesting. It's definitely a different look at it.
Yeah.
But anyway, they used water tugboats, the fire boats, and brought hoses from the Hudson River in to fight the fire because the towers, when they both had fallen, had killed all the water mains. In addition to that, all the phone lines, power's down everywhere. Imagine the short circuit that occurs when you cut off the power to a building that size. You understand the amount of energy it takes to run one of those buildings? 10 small towns could run on what it takes to power that building. And you drop it and sever the power lines. You blew out every transformer for who knows how long. It was a monumental problem for utilities. And the towers themselves had all the radio and television, I mean, radio, TV, everything goes down.
Right.
Now, there's obviously other, we're not in the dark ages here. There were other means to get signals out beyond that. But major stuff goes out. So we have no way of knowing where my mom is. The world is, everybody's got their own, doing the same thing we're doing. Like, how do you find these people? What happened? I didn't really know exactly where she was, to be honest with you. And then, she writes about the horrific smell, that started to waft. So she couldn't have been that far away, or at least,
I seem to recall that they were downtown, which was near where this happened. I seem to recall.
Well, I could actually tell you if you really want to know. But so she's hanging out with Liz, and then it becomes apparent they've now shut down the entire, airspace around the whole area. Okay, so anyway, here it is here. Okay, so she was stranded in New York, the 5-star hotel with Elizabeth Taylor. So that was, let's see if it says which one.
Jen Kaiser says, we didn't have phone lines downtown for several days after. Hello, Jen. It's good to see you and have you here. I'm happy to see your name. Jen lived in New York City as well, and as I did, and I forgot about that. That is true, but I was on the road and couldn't get home for several days because the airspace was closed. But where was your mom? What hotel did she go to join Elizabeth Taylor?
It's in my book. Anyway,
So,
the point is, they get together, and then it becomes pretty obvious you can't get out of there. They've shut down the airspace.
In or out, which was really sobering for New Yorkers because we didn't realize what we always knew. We lived on an island called Manhattan, and it's a big island it's not even that big. It's just so many people, millions of people that live on it. But when this happened is when we realized that we couldn't get in or out off this island. And
that
how
was another
vulnerable
thing
we were
that none of us
because
saw.
the bridges and tunnels
That was another thing that no one
closed.
saw, was this exodus of people going over the Brooklyn Bridge and the George Washington Bridge. There was like waves of people, and then the people started to panic because they thought that someone was going to fly an airplane into the bridge with all those people on it. I mean, it's like, I'd never seen that side of the story because, as you pointed out, we had limited. I'm in California. Carrie and I are watching news shows in California to report on this. So they had footage of the towers being hit, things of this nature, but we didn't have any of this backstory. So that is why that doc was interesting. I had never seen the footage of these tidal waves. I mean, you're talking about thousands, tens of thousands of people mass exiting from New York City, trying to get off this rock and get over to New Jersey or wherever. And it's like, it was wild. I never saw that footage before either. Now, my mother wasn't trying to leave the island yet because the room service was still flowing, and I'm sure she and Liz were doing their best to hold down the fort. But they were trying to get out of there, and all their flights had been canceled. And so Liz calls up John Warner, her ex, and says, "Hey, Debbie and I are stranded. We need to get back to California to our homes and whatever. Can you help us out?" So John Warner actually arranged to get the airspace clearance for the two of them to fly out of New York City in a private jet.
How on earth?
It takes a senator to do it. You'd have to have, it's like military clearance.
Yeah.
I mean, you understand that plane and a handful of military aircraft is the only thing in the air. So they got, that's pretty, look, it is, the way he explained it is, the way John Warner explained it, he was like, hey, this is like national treasure. We have to protect this, and we need to move these girls and get them out of there. And that's how he got it done. And
I didn't even know that kind of thing was possible.
well, I'm not sure that anybody did, but you don't know the answer till you ask.
No, that is true. Except when this happened, I was in Tucson. Michael and I never took vacations, and he said, "We're going on a vacation. I know where we're going to go," and it was like because we never take a vacation. I don't think I've taken one since. So I'm just not a vacation person. But we went to this spa that was it up at the top of the mountains in Tucson or at Phoenix. I don't even remember. I just remember I was in Arizona.
Was that the one? Yeah, it was
called Miamo.
Oh,
was
I
the
didn't
name
know
of
that.
it.
No, I don't know.
Well, it was incredible, but by day 8, I was so antsy because I'm just not a person that can get rubbed like a Kobe beef and relax. I mean, I like to do, and so I was very anxious to get home to begin with. Now, back then, if I traveled, I would always send my luggage via FedEx, so I didn't have to deal with, baggage and losing it in New York and blah, blah, blah. So I sent everything home on the 10th so that it would be there when I got home. So we had nothing except what we had on our backs and a toothbrush and a tube of toothpaste. That's what we had. And Cat Cosmetics actually opened its doors because e-commerce was a few months off from there. It was 20 years ago. But I had a store on Madison Avenue and launching the entire company on September 11th, 2001. So I got up in the morning, and about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, because we were going to leave for the airport. So I opened my computer, and I was talking to one of my manufacturers of my eye pencils and things like that in Germany, and I had this little window pop up, and back then it was AOL Messenger. And it was a guy that I had met who was a fan who became a friend, and he had my email address and my number, so it popped up. Kat, where are you? And I said, because he didn't live in New York City, but he was watching the news. I had no idea what was going on. So I said, I'm in Arizona, flying home today. And he said, a plane just went into the World Trade Center. So that was plane number 1. And I had been up to the top of that World Trade Center so many times. I had worked there so many times, been there, eaten there, did TV shows up there. Never once did I feel comfortable up there. And it's not about the height. I just had a terrible feeling whenever I was up there. Because it would take 20 minutes to get to the bottom in the elevator, so you couldn't get a break, and you were just up there. And I remember seeing small planes fly below. And I would see the planes, and they looked really tiny, and they were below where I was, which I found astonishing.
Well, it was a remarkable architectural and engineering achievement. The truth is...
Oh, it was beautiful, but my entire spirit could not be comfortable there.
But the building, the way it was built, was unique. The way the outer, those beautiful steel spires that you saw sticking up out of the ground.
Yes.
The skin made what's so elegant about that building, but it needed every bit of it to maintain integrity. Nobody ever dreamed, that it could be knocked down. The Empire State Building, most people don't realize this, around World War II, a bomber actually in a fog flew into the Empire State Building, crashed into the side of it and blew up in the side of the tower. But the Empire State Building is not built like that. It's built traditional box steel with concrete exterior, and it just sort of like dinged it, so to speak, even though it blew up on the side. Now, of course, the other thing is it wasn't going 500 miles an hour like these other planes.
Oh, I honestly thought when he said that a small plane like one I had seen flying below crashed into it by accident, and he said, turn on the TV, which I did. And Michael was still sleeping.
And well, at the first, there was no determination. I remember specifically thinking to myself, well, I mean, I'm a pilot. That's a pretty major fuck. I was like, how do you hit the tower? I mean, it was like, because it was at that point only being discussed as an accident.
Right.
And I'm like, I was confounded by the idea that this giant plane.
Well, people could have a heart attack. It's happened. No. I mean, if
no, there's like
I don't know. I never imagined it was terrorism.
It's a Boeing 767. It's a modern airplane. 2 pilots. I mean,
because you knew that it was a big plane.
I knew.
Oh, I thought it was a small plane.
Oh no, we had seen, like, they were running the footage. No one was saying it was an attack. It was just like accident. So we saw the plane. You could see it was a huge plane. It was pretty obvious. So it didn't make any sense to me. However, while all that was going on, the next plane hits the next tower.
And I turned on the TV 1 minute before that.
And when that happened, there was no doubt.
We all
Everybody
knew.
was like, okay. And at that moment, that's when I knew, and we all knew, that we were being attacked. We didn't know who at that exact moment. But that gets our gander up. It became another Pearl Harbor, literally, another Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor was a dastardly sneak attack where you had lying diplomats actually in Washington and other places acting like, knowing that they're going to attack us, acting like everything's cool. By the way, I want to say something about that because it reminded me today about that. So the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, World War II, all of that, and we have the Marshall Plan. We rebuild Germany and Japan, and we're pretty good friends with the Japanese to this day. So I'm not going to be one of these people that says there's no hope, for the Taliban, but I also have to be a student of history a little bit beyond. The Middle East in general, the Arabs, are not a bunch of people that get along real well with each other, much less everybody else. Also, when you have a group of people that has a philosophy that says, if you don't think the way I do, I'm going to kill you. I mean, those are hard people to get along with. The ideal scenario is I say, look, I understand you don't believe the way I believe, but can't we all just get along? And we can, because, you've noticed how you have First and Second Baptists, for example, or Lutherans, and they get along. They're not going to, because you're a Baptist, they're not going to kill you. Or if you're a Muslim versus a Jew, or, we all seem in this country do pretty well getting along with differences of opinion. This is, although it's gotten a little sketchy lately.
Yeah, exactly.
But it should, of all places on earth, this was the place. Literally, this was the place where we could express and have differences of opinion and all live in perfect harmony. But the Middle East was never that. Not for thousands of years, not for other rulers. Let's just go back in time, all the way back. I mean, if you don't want to read history books, just turn on the movie Lawrence of Arabia. And, here were the British involved with the Turks and pre-World War I, Middle East. It's the same thing. And Lawrence, T.L. Lawrence, said a famous quote. He said, the desert is an ocean in which no country can dip its oar. And what he was referring to is that navies couldn't get to it. It's just a giant desert. It's just a sand pit. Mm-hmm. And you can't use your navy to get there, and it's impossible to mess with it. So not wanting to listen to Lawrence or learn from history, we're all back in the Middle East messing around over there. So it was never a good idea. However, what was a good idea, I think, is not letting people get away with this crap. You could not allow that to go unchecked. You could not. It's not for the sake of the 2,900.
Right. Well, of course. Because
you must.
Everything but prior to that had gone rather unchecked. And so
freedom
yes.
is expensive.
Freedom isn't free.
Freedom is hardly free.
Yeah.
And we have paid the price many times over. But I was bringing up the point. Look at the difference. The Japanese who attacked Pearl Harbor, a very similar amount of people died. The whole thing starts all a world war over it. And we've managed to have great relations now with the Japanese, not just in electronics and cameras, but, everybody's getting along pretty good. I don't really see a problem there. And they have lost their world conquest views, and they're certainly not saying, if you don't believe the way we believe, we're going to kill you. So, how does the world deal with that? This is really the crux of the problem. No matter how you slice it, no matter how you might want to say, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice, if we could all get along? If the Taliban could come have turkey dinner at my house, when Thanksgiving. I mean, wouldn't that be nice? I've got a little beard going myself. I could get right in with them. The problem is that, generally speaking, and I should hope, we can all hope, that they would change. But let's be realistic that for thousands of years, this is the way they are. They don't care about a seat at the UN. They don't want modern life the way we have it. They could care less. They're nomads. They love the lifestyle. I don't know how many people you know. I've been to Afghanistan. I've met these people. I've hung out with them. We filmed and did interviews there and talked to these nomads. They're beautiful people. I'm talking to the extremists. I'm just saying, by the way, I never saw a woman when I was there. They were all locked up with the goats, I guess. But the bottom line is these people have a little different view in the world. So is it our business to go there and save them or indoctrinate them? Isn't that exactly what's now going in reverse? We go in there and tell them, no, you have to live like us. You can't treat your women that way. You can't treat the animals there, and I'm not exaggerating, get treated better than the women. Mm. I'm not exaggerating.
No, I know you aren't.
I mean, it's so you could see why people say, wow, we need to straighten them out, right? But you see what happens when we do. Look at the cost.
Right.
And then they came over here and teach us a little lesson. Let's not forget, 9/11 really happened because of us meddling in the Middle East. I mean, it's payback time. You know, they weren't trying to get us all converted to be Muslims. They weren't trying to get us all a copy of the Quran when they were pulling off the World Trade Towers. I mean, they were really delivering a message that if you think you can do this over here, we're going to show you you're not untouchable. Guess who else used to do that? When the Japanese hit Pearl Harbor, Doolittle, Lieutenant Colonel Doolittle at the time, launched a one-way suicide mission to attack Tokyo with B-25 bombers on aircraft carriers to show the Japanese that they were not untouchable. Well, that is what 9/11 was. They were showing us that we were not untouchable. And so look what we did to sort of protect ourselves, you know. And all that's fine and dandy, but this is a very complicated place. And you cannot, one size doesn't fit all over there. And we shouldn't be meddling in many things over there. But you could see why it's got to be dealt with in a very adult fashion. and
Well,
I don't
yes.
really see the adults in the room down there right now. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I see a lot, I'm talking about Washington.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't see the adults in the room dealing with this the way that it has to be dealt with. It looks like politics to me, smells like politics.
Well, that was one of the, for sure, I was talking about this last night on the show about it, because I couldn't get home. And I mean, literally, I woke Michael up and I said, we have to go to the airport now. And by the time we got in the car and got out of the driveway, they announced on the radio that the airspace was closed, and we'd never heard that before. None of us had ever heard this term. The airspace has now been closed.
I don't believe that. Actually, I don't believe this airspace in the United States had ever been closed before.
Right. So I said, what does that mean? What does that mean? And then I couldn't get a train, couldn't get a bus. Tried to get a bunch of people at the hotel together to get a private jet. I was trying to think of anything that could get us home because I then had also a lot of animals, lived in New York City, wanted to go home. My business, was opening that day, and Gillian, who worked for me then, was on the phone, and she was crying, and and I just wanted to get home and be in my own place. If anything terrible happened, which we didn't know if it was going to after that, I wanted to be home, and I couldn't get home. And then, of course, bam, it altered my brain chemistry to be under all that stress for that much time, and it was.
But isn't that part of what everybody experiences?
Yes,
that very moment
we were all absolutely.
You didn't know what was next. That was when
right.
when the planes were hitting, and then they were hitting the Pentagon, and then the plane goes down in Pennsylvania. I mean, at that point, you're like, what else is coming our way?
Right.
Something wicked this way comes.
If I could, because someone just, I'm getting to glance down every now and then here, and I just saw a really beautiful post that said, it's Lynn Rose saying, especially thinking of the heroes on United Flight 93, whose bravery saved those in the Capitol and White House. And, and we talked about that because I always asked, do you think that the plane was shot down, or did it crash, or did...
I told you what my feeling was.
And you said what your feeling is, because... But there is one thing that is undoubtable, and that is that those brave passengers...
Fought back.
And because of that, they were able to save the White House.
So there's a lot of theories about but no one really ever will know, because we would already know if we were going to know. So that means that all we can do is look at the facts that we have. Now, I would tell you that based on what happened and the way it went down and everything, it looks to me like a bunch of people got together, rushed the cabin, and said, you're not going to fly this plane anywhere else, and just crash landed the plane, and it didn't go so well. There might have been a struggle over that. Landing a jet aircraft in a field in Pennsylvania is not exactly going to go well any way you look at it. You could do a gear up landing though at a proper speed. If you had the wherewithal, you could have dropped your flaps, you could have slowed the airspeed, and you could have crash landed in that field and probably potentially have survived. But that's not what went down. That plane went down at speed, which tells me there was a struggle, which tells me those people were heroes.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. No matter what, those people were heroes because...
And you hear the cavalier, nonchalant phone calls. I mean, compared to what you would think. There's people like, dear, this is, I'm calling in to let you know our plane's been hijacked. I don't know what's going to happen. I heard about the trade. Like, it's almost like...
No, and they were just wanting to say,
I
wanted you to know I love you. And, those are the calls that just really get to me because... I don't know what I would be like under those circumstances.
Well, I could tell you one thing's for sure, and maybe it's it's partly who we are as Americans. We're gonna. If I were on that plane, we're all going down.
Oh yeah.
Because you're not. It's like I never understood the Jews in World War II, in Poland, and just sitting around. They had the Germans outnumbered many times over, and they kept thinking, well. This can't be as bad as it's looking. And they never got together and said, we're going to resist. Even if half of us are dead, we're going to overpower. We're not going to take this. Now we've all learned our lessons, and those are the lessons because you're dealing with unreasonable people. So the idea that you want to placate these people, which is exactly where we are right now.
Yes. We
have to watch very carefully, but there's not an inch of that, what is it? The Reagan line, we're gonna trust but verify.
Yes.
We got to be beyond that right now. But we're right at that exact moment where we're looking at these people, saying, "Do we trust these people?" And I, to me, it's like unconscionable that you could even think about this. 5 minutes ago, we were mortal enemies shooting AK-47s and M16s at each other.
Yeah, and typically, when you're dealing with an entire country, but I mean even. The greatest predictor of future is the past behavior. So I mean, how can anything really change that much?
It's a melting. Okay, so Afghanistan is a melting pot of tribes. So even if you had a group of people over here that says we're in charge, I doubt very much that there's everybody in agreement over there. Because even when I was there, I met very hostile groups that hated each other. In fact, there was a guy that we were interviewing, and he said, well, did you interview these other people? He wouldn't even talk to us if we'd even spoken to these other people. And that fight's been going on for 1,500 years, long before we got there to do a television interview. So you're not going to fix that stuff, and you can't, because there's so many factions within the group, is that person who's saying we're in charge, are they really in charge? We're not even going to get into the bonehead stuff about leaving all the weapons there. We won't deal with that.
We'll leave that alone because really this is more about...
The heroes.
Yes, absolutely.
But the heroes, part of the heroes are the people that participated in the... the Exodus.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That was a remarkable
But see,
thing.
It's like the firemen, the police, the first responders, that every show we watched, it made it abundantly clear. And law enforcement always runs into the face of danger,
But we don't like it.
But they went in there knowing they would probably not
for
come
sure.
out.
For sure.
That to me is the ultimate of heroism. And you heard the story after story of a firefighter that stayed with a man in a wheelchair because he knew there was no way he'd get down.
The building, once it was on fire, so we have coatings that we put on steel beams. And generally, at the most, it's a 1 hour rated coating at a certain temperature. But jet fuel is not something that you could plan the fire retardant around. So what might have been a 1 hour fire retardant on the steel was a matter of minutes before it failed. The structure started to fail. But they knew that. Those fire people, they know more about any of this than all of us, and they knew that was going to be all bad. And something that huge, for those of you that have ever been in a building that tall, it's incredible. It's like you're literally in an airplane standing in a building, and you're looking down at the world as if you were in an airplane. The idea that whole building came down in a thump,
Yeah, no, it was
everything within a matter of several blocks, of course, was wiped out. Everything on the ground. So everybody that stayed, knowing that, those firemen and those engines and the police that stayed.
No, they knew. And it's like the people on the plane. They knew.
But it would have been easy
And
to say, what can I possibly
they
do?
did
This
it.
building's coming down anyway. I can't, what can I do? Instead, they're running through the door.
And running up the stairs.
So who in the heck,
With all that gear on. Let me tell you, the elevator took 15 minutes to get to the bottom.
That's why I never
so
liked that.
imagine running up with all that gear and your adrenaline is going and the heat. It's unbelievable to think.
Well, it reminds
of the
me of
bravery
Hacksaw
these
Ridge.
people.
Lord, let me just get one more.
Yeah.
Lord, if you could just get me through to get one more. How many of those words were spoken that day?
Mm-hmm.
Running, when they come back, you heard a bunch of people out, they're out the door,
And then they went
and they
back
run
up.
back in.
Yeah.
Just one more.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's extreme bravery, but it's also inherent in our nature.
Well, it is, but it takes a certain kind of human being to go into that work. I think it takes a certain human being to face whatever is on the other side.
But here's the other thing. You don't ever know how you're going to respond to that until it happens. That's the true test. And there's no way to have that test in a test. Like, I can't give you a test to see how you're going to respond at extreme things. So it's just like in the military. They used to say to people, well, do you think that you could kill somebody if you had to? And, to be honest, most people would say, gee, I don't know how I'm going to react to that. Killing is against my nature in general. If I had to kill to save my friend, my family, would I? That's the same kind of moment. What would you do? Would you be willing to at that moment where the crisis has arisen, there's no second guessing, it's all instinct.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be nice, though, to
You're
think,
right. It is all instinct, yes.
and either you're going in there or you're not?
Well, you're wired like this or you aren't either.
Well,
this,
but
and you
culturally,
don't know until you get there.
No, until you're in that moment.
Yeah.
But culturally, I think it's a beautiful thing about America. For generations,
that's
we
why
have always run
That's
up
why we are home of the brave.
Land of the free
And home of the brave.
And by the way, our national anthem is beautiful. The words are beautiful. And what they say and what they speak to is beautiful. And I'm not up for any changes to that at all. And
well,
it reflects.
I don't think anybody would,
Well,
I know where you're going, and I'm going to just
no, I'm
pull
not
you
going
right
there.
back.
No,
Okay.
I'm not going there.
Okay.
I'm just saying that the words
It
that were
speaks
written
to
for
all of us.
reasons
Yeah.
were very carefully chosen
Mm-hmm.
that reflected generations of bravery and growth in this country and the desire for freedom and liberty. And those words have been very expensive to maintain, and not just for us. We have been, unfortunately, we have been the caretakers of the world. What in the world are we doing in some of these places still? I mean, the idea that we were leaving some troops in Afghanistan, you know how many troops are in Germany?
Yes.
Or Japan even for that matter. Why are they there? Well, it's a safeguard.
So Francine Lobner asked if we had visited the 911 Memorial Museum, and I'm so regret that we didn't do that, because we
were
went
right
to
there.
New York.
No, we were right
when your book came out.
We were in the fountain
We
and all
were
that.
we were
in the courtyard.
We were down there for a meeting at the publishers, and we looked at the Freedom Tower, and we didn't have a lot of time, but I said, I really want to go see what's there. So we walked over, and we saw the memorial and all the names etched into it, and I wanted to go into the Freedom Tower because I actually spent quite a bit of time at the World Trade Center. I used to go down there.
My mother's
all the
business
time.
people
Yeah.
were Fiduciary Trust Company
Right.
was in the
So
towers.
I had different reasons
Yeah.
to be there. So I just remember, God, it just went out of my head. What were we talking about?
You're talking about why you went up into the tower or why you didn't go to the museum?
No, why we didn't go to the museum. So we go over and I saw the museum, Francine, and I thought, oh, I really want to see this. But we didn't have time because we had to get to another meeting all the way uptown. And we were only there for just a few days, and so I thought I'll see it another time. I don't think I will ever get to see it because I'm not sure I will ever go back to New York City.
Why?
Because it's so unsafe, and I don't know when that will change.
Well, I can tell you it will change.
I hope so. You know what? I need to hear that because I lived in that city for 17 years, and I loved it so much.
Here's
but
what's happening.
It scares me.
Okay, we're in a cycle.
Yeah.
And these cycles come. Americans are predisposed to sort of knee-jerk reactions to things, and also politically to punishing. You don't know who to punish. None of us are overly happy with Washington in general, so we typically punish the party in power. But I think right now there's clarity within the insanity. It's like the insanity that you're feeling from many areas and the challenges to traditional values, all of that sharpens the differences between these different viewpoints, and I think will cause change. I don't believe there's anybody that's going to put up with lawlessness in these cities. They are right now because you have
It's over a year.
The monkeys
People are getting shot on the street.
The monkeys are in charge of the bananas.
Yes, but how do we go back
at a certain point? When
and I'm really just asking because I know a lot of people would like to know that. How do we go back to being normal?
What happens is everybody starts to, at a certain point, look around and say, this doesn't work. Was a bad idea. It's a novel concept. There are a lot of novel concepts that have been tried. And the idea, I'm not sure about this defunding the police concept, but I suspect at the root of it, there was some good idea, there was a goodness to it. No one did that to be cruel.
Yeah.
They did that because they were trying to help a certain group of people that were being unjustly treated. So we as Americans all want to fix all of that, and sometimes we don't know how to do it, so we do something extreme. And so these movements come. Now they will correct themselves. I've seen all of this before. My great-grandmother was the best because she was around for everything. My great-grandmother was around for World War I and World War II, and I used to love to talk to her because she would reflect upon all the madness in the world and said, I've seen all of this before. And this too shall pass.
This too shall pass. And I do believe that. It's just right now.
But
look at Jen Kaiser, who I was talking to, who lived in New York City, great friend of mine. She just said she lives in Chicago now because she has a great job and she moved to Chicago a long time ago. And crime is so bad there that she said, I live in Chicago, and yeah, I mean, it's...
I'm not saying people aren't going to...
She doesn't know when if she'll ever feel safe
I'm not
again,
saying that people in the short term should stay in these unsafe places. Protect yourself by all means.
Yeah.
But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying it's a cycle. And we will rise up and fire the people that are mismanaging these things. You're fired! The people that have these dumb ideas... You can't hide it at a certain point, and then they get fired, and other people come in and are fixing things. There are people, I've watched this happen You look what happened in New York City. It's been through a cycle of this before. I don't need to name names, but it's cycled before. And Chicago, I don't know if it's ever been entirely fixed, but I spent some time in Chicago back in the 80s, and it was pretty safe at that moment. I don't know who was in charge at that time. I mean, but there was certainly not what's going on now. So we need to hire people and put people in charge that have some level of intelligence and can fix these problems. It's time to get rid of the people that are stupid and doing bad things, or even, I don't even like to say it quite like that. As I said earlier, it might have been with the best of intentions that some of this was being done. Mm-hmm. But even with the best of intentions, when you have outcomes like this, at a certain point you say, okay, that didn't work. Let's change, and here's what we need to do. And you look at other things. The idea that we don't want to examine our past is absurd because it is the way out in many cases. If you're not looking at the past, you're going to repeat some of the mistakes, but you also can't learn a thing. So are we going to continue to do exactly what we're doing now? And there's no way we're going to do that because there's too many of us. There's too many of us that have critical thinking capabilities and have common sense. It's true common sense. that will fix this problem. And Americans have it in our DNA. So fire the people that aren't, if you're in an area where you have high crime and all these problems, fire those people, get some people in there that know what the hell they're doing, and let's get control of this thing.
You know what, Jen, I was wondering, when I read that, when I saw you say you don't know if you'll ever feel safe there again, and I was thinking that your job has you there.
Right.
But,
Maybe you don't even have a choice.
Sometimes you don't. But I hope that I get to see New York City again, and I hope that I get to see the 9/11 Museum, because it is so unbelievable
I'll put it this
what
way.
they've done.
The lights will never go out on Broadway. Never. That's a fact, because we will keep them burning at all costs.
And on that note, when your mother and sister passed away and they turned the lights on Broadway out for like a minute or something, it was a big deal. So I want to know where you were, and I also want to know how your day was. How did you feel? And in going forward,
Do you see this?
What's this?
Well, I just wanted
calling post 911. Let me look at the
era veterans.
Yes, I thought I could see it on the.
Oh, it's right in front of you.
Okay, virtual intensive treatment for veterans and military service members suffering from symptoms.
If you need help.
If you need help.
The UCLA Operation Mend people have a program going. John, you could you could see it on the two-shot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are a vet, they offer free services to post 9/11 era veterans, all veterans. And right now, more than ever, I am sure there are a lot of veterans that are bent on what's going on because their friends gave their lives for a mission of which was partly accomplished, but our exit was less than graceful. And I'm sure a lot of them aren't happy about that. So the beautiful thing about Operation Mend here is that they offer free counseling and free support services, and it's a whole, and it's a virtual treatment, some of it, so you don't have to go in.
Trauma is so incredible because
there's the rest of that.
When you watch people being interviewed today that were right
what they do.
there,
See, look at all of the
I
different
see.
things.
And you saw these men shake,
Yes.
try not to cry. Let it go. I mean, let it flow is what I should say.
Well,
you realize that the trauma of PTSD, which can be a lot of things, but for these people, that's a hard thing to ever get past.
I said to Carrie, when she lost her friend Greg, she literally was suffering from a type of PTSD, and she was, clinically depressed from this.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, you need to look at how others have dealt with these things. And if you think you're the only one that's dealt with loss like this and has not overcome it, let's watch some war movies together. And I started her on watching old war movies, and she started to see not only the bravery and all that, but also the loss, and then the way that people rose up in the loss, in righteous indignation. When their friend was lost, they righteously ran in and vindicated the loss. So there's a couple of ways. You could go into your shell and say, I've suffered this loss and I'm going to stay in my room in the corner in the dark. Or you can rise up in righteous indignation and run to the roar. And I believe that we all have it within ourselves, and with the help of our Maker, we can rise to these and lean against the wind.
Right. Well, I, really enjoyed my day today, watching, feeling, letting stuff not go, but letting it out.
Oh, man. It's
I needed
intense.
it. I have been looking forward to it because one of my friends, actually, I think she had the last 9/11 baby.
Did
her
you
name,
see the
Shirley is her name.
Wasn't it cool, though, to see the
Oh,
children?
to see the children.
The children.
Yes, that's what made me think of Shirley because
Yes.
she thought she was pregnant. She took her husband Peter to the World Trade Center. No, he took her to work, And then he didn't even work at the World Trade Center. He had a meeting there he worked for a bank. I think it was Citibank. And then he had to go to the World Trade Center for a meeting. I think it was Cantor Fitzgerald. So he wasn't even supposed to be there, except for he had a meeting that day. And on the way to her being dropped off from work, she said, "I think I'm pregnant." And he said, "Get a test and don't take it. Wait till we get home tonight and we'll do it together." He was very excited. And then he dropped her off, went to his meeting, and never came home. And of course,
but the child is around now.
Oh, she's 18.
That's what we were watching
But
today.
I don't know where Shirley is.
But
I can't
loved it.
find her anywhere. I think about her all the time.
I loved watching. I mean, it's painful, but it's also beautiful. The children of the
reading
of the lost,
everything, yes.
reading the names.
Yes.
But they all had a little something to say, and some of them were very articulate.
Yeah.
And it was really, they weren't there consciously. They may have been very young. Some of these kids were just not even born.
Not even
like you
born.
said. But yet there they were. Feeling it more than in some ways more than us. I mean, we all knew people that were lost. And some more than others, lost husbands and wives and whatever.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, the most direct. But here was somebody who wasn't conscious yet, who's reflecting on a loss. It's just a very interesting thing to grapple with as a young teenager, that you're on this, they got to be 20, right? Ish.
Well, remember this one boy was 10 years old when his mother was on Flight 93.
So he's 30 now.
So he's 30, and they said to him, "What do you think your mother would feel as she looks down on you today?"
Right.
And he said, "I think she would be really proud of the man I've become, the father I've become, and just what I've done with what I'm doing with my life." And that
now you see what I thought.
Unbelievable.
But what I thought was interesting about that was, the lady was a chief petty officer in the military, and she had died in 9/11. But she had obviously raised this boy to feel the responsibility of his mother on him, literally ghosting or haunting him. The conscious,
in a great way.
In a conscious way.
Right.
The morals and values that his mother had tried to put on
by
him.
10, so much is set in us.
Sure.
So much is set by 8,
but
9.
But isn't that like? I wouldn't just take that for granted. That's interesting.
I'm not
to
saying
me.
that people can't have behavior changes and all kinds. I'm not saying. I'm just saying, a lot is set by that age.
But for him to become that person, was a conscious memory of the things that she had instilled into him. And we all have that. Hopefully, we've had someone in our life that has drilled into us levels of consciousness and morals and values and right and wrong and what's beautiful and not. There's a song in Molly Brown. We've got dignity in culture. We can parler français. We spend $1 million on the Rue de la Paix. What's interesting about that is, where do you get dignity in culture? From the people around you, from the experience and the life that you live in the world that you live in. It's around you. People travel to Europe because they want an opening culture that's different than our culture. If you live in Des Moines, Iowa, and you go to Paris, France, there's a whole different culture over there, and it's an interesting contrast. But there's culture all over the world. I said I was in a tent with a guy in Afghanistan on the side of Mount Ararat, and he was perfectly happy to be living in his tent with his goats. Perfectly happy. Did not need to go to Paris. Not want an American Express card. Had never even seen an American Express card, much to their chagrin. But that's the difference. There's cultures all over the world, but we strive to suck all that in. It's what makes us who we are. You meet somebody, either your parents, but even later in life when you have a mate, your mate exposes you then to things that they have as life. Now you bring those two things together and you raise up another generation of people with all that consciousness and all that culture and all of that experience, and the next little generation and the next and the next. And we've been doing that in this country for a long time with the values, the core values of this country. We have been doing that as Americans for a long time. And I think I think this is an amazing experiment. And I think it's, as much as there are birth pains, I think it's going well. As much as you could look right now and say, I don't like what I see at the moment, I think that there's too many of us with that consciousness that I'm talking about that's baked in from generations. See, when you and I get together, I don't know anything about hypnosis. I don't know anything about all the things that you have learned in your world. We get together, and then that's that life. And then that experience, you learn more about old movies, and I learn more about what you do, and then that's an increased level of consciousness by tenfold. Then you hand that down to the next generation.
Right.
Whether it be your blood child or not, you can still hand it down.
But you know what my favorite thing is? That no matter what was instilled in us by age 8, 9, or 10, we can change our life at any given moment just because we want to. We seek change. And, you know, people sometimes don't change because they think it's too hard. But I'd like to call that joyful work. Because anytime you're going to change something in your life, like if you weren't instilled, let's say, with right and wrong, you can still learn it if you want to. And so
It's all around
honestly,
you.
I have to tell you, I don't exactly know what was instilled in me in a child, and I went to the school of hard knocks. And I didn't get a lot of things until I hit my 40s, I'll tell you. I really didn't.
Tell you that there were things that you took from your grandmother.
Oh, my grandmothers both raised me in some sense.
Well.
So yes, and my grandmother on my dad's side, you know, I don't know where I would be without her. And
Right.
and so therefore
But
I
even
think
your
of her
father,
every
who
day.
you weren't super close to,
I was super close to my dad. He just wasn't. He didn't have a lot of time to be a dad, and everything was, you know.
Can't
everybody, a lot
imagine.
of people have.
No,
this-
everybody has that
I
story.
don't feel sorry for myself because
No.
I parented myself really
but again, all
beautifully
of that,
and along with my
but all of
grandparents.
those people
Yeah.
contributed to who you are. And then,
And
of
I'm
course,
grateful
and
for
then,
all
and
of
all
it,
the, and then all
actually.
the people that you've met and mentored and
Mhm.
learned from and whatnot. You know, and there was a time in school where, you know, they were actually teaching kids things that were important, that were not politically driven. They were more things around culture and around how to spell. I know this is a novel concept, you know, how to actually write in handwriting and script and print. There were a lot of basic things that you wanted to be taught. And not everybody could do that at home, so we started schooling children way back in the day. And that was a good thing, and we've increased logarithmically in terms of education. But right now, again, I think we all need to rise up and take control of the education system as well and make sure we're getting the right kind of education, get back to basics in many
do you
areas.
know what I wish? I really wish, as part of the curriculum.
There's no place like home.
No, I really wish they would teach love and how to do that, how to receive it, how to give it.
Well, you
and
should design the class
well,
because I'm
no,
not
I mean,
sure that
it's
anybody...
just not. And real life skills. But speaking of love, I want to say that we have a couple of people in our family here in this family, the Facebook family. It's their birthdays today, and what a weird day to have your birthday fall on now. You know what I mean? So I want to wish a happy birthday to these two people. Seth Robichaud is 21 years old today. And Julianne Golden, I don't know how old you are, and I would not have the bad manners to say it if I did, but 21, you know, that's a big milestone. So I want to say happy birthday to Seth Robichaud and Julianne Golden, and I'm wondering if we have any other birthdays, because I would certainly hate to miss your day, because it deserves to be noticed and celebrated. If not today, make sure you do celebrate it another day.
Oh, I think you said...
This is like,
last night on your show, you said that birthdays need to be celebrated for more than 24 hours.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
I totally agree.
Look, Ferruccio's birthday was, 3 days ago, and I'm sure he's still deep in it, you know, and should be. It should be the miniseries.
I like to take a week, you know, and 5 to 7 days spread, depending upon how much entertaining I feel like entertaining myself with. But also entertaining myself might mean chilling out and watching old movies. It might mean going and go skiing or do something fun. I used to traditionally go skiing on my birthday every year.
Yep.
You went with me a couple times.
Yes, I did, as a matter of fact.
Tahoe.
Yes, I remember. I was trying to remember if your mom was with us, because we went with her for a month.
That was a different trip.
Okay, so I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of this. And I know sometimes people get a little like wacky because we'll go we go over a line for an inch, but you know what? We're all entitled to feel the way we feel, make the choices we make, and don't have to necessarily agree, which is why I always want you to know that it doesn't matter to me either way, because I just love you all exactly as you are, and what you think and what you do.
That is why we left England. We came to have this great experience in this country, because in England it was very tyrannical and you couldn't have opposing viewpoints. They were starting to get, because of the king and everything that was going on in England, they wouldn't let you have free thinking. You couldn't have different. There was only one religion allowed. This is why we came here, is so that we could all do our own thing and get along behind it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would love to see that happen again.
Well, the reason why it doesn't, it only works if everybody can have that same philosophy. Isn't it okay that I don't think exactly like you? Why is it important that everybody think alike? Well, it's important in a couple of areas. In relationship to the law. So why do we have laws? Okay, so we can all agree that killing people is a bad idea, etc. So you start to break down laws, and that is a defining point sometimes as far as what separates us. But after we've done pretty well defining those laws, over the years, and we've punished people that misbehave and separated them from society, and then they pay their price, and then we welcome them back. That's the ideal scenario. But the bottom line is, there's a lot of reasons why we can all just agree to not agree.
Yeah.
My sister and I had, some things we agreed on perfectly, and other things there was no chance we were going to agree on, so we never really messed with it.
Right.
Sometimes we talk about it and slough it off. She used to love at her parties to use me as this wedge. She used to introduce me as her born-again brother, for example, so that the religious conversation could take off. And she liked, even though she didn't totally agree with everything I was saying, she liked the fact that I was kind of a renegade in that department. I was not willing. I was listening to a guy who said he was an atheist today on television. You and I were watching it. And he said, I'm an atheist. And then he proceeded to explain what his viewpoint of religion was. And it was exactly why I wouldn't want to be religion. If religion is stained glass windows and Bibles and pews and blah, 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 pass. What he wasn't identifying with, what he didn't understand, is this idea of a personal relationship that has nothing to do with buildings and all the rest of it. It is a very personal thing and can only be approached that way.
Right.
And so Carrie used to struggle with this one because it doesn't allow to overly analyze.
Well, what I loved was that I love this particular guy you're talking about. I love his work. I think he's incredibly intelligent and well-spoken. And when he said that he was an atheist, neither one of us even looked at each other or anything. We were just watching because that's okay, isn't it?
He said he has friends that are. He said he has friends that are Jews and Catholics and all the rest. And that is what this is supposed to be here. It was always that way. I mean, when I was growing up, I certainly do not remember. There were certainly pockets in the U.S., but I certainly do not remember this much discourse amongst what should be a bunch of Americans, all for one and one for all.
And that having been said, I would like for this day in history, and for all of the people who gave all, lost everything, including their lives, had to leave their loved ones behind, let's not let that have been for nothing. I would love for this country to get back to the way it was, because I lived in New York City, and when we got home,
man, was that something.
I could feel the shift that happened, and
in a great way.
And New York City was known for people
snootiness.
Well, or just people don't talk to each other, but I'll tell you, that shift happened like that.
Yep.
It was so fast and so beautiful, and it was life-changing to be a part of it. And I would love to see that again.
Yeah,
and you know what? If it happened like that, it can happen like that again. I believe that with all my heart.
Well,
it's
it's an individual decision for it to happen, first of all.
Mhm.
But when there's a giant shift all at once, the energy was incredible. And it reminds me, which I've said this before, but one of my favorite quotes from the movie Starman.
Yep.
When Jeff Bridges plays the alien, and he says, "You know what I find beautiful about you people?" Meaning Earthlings. And she's like, "No, what?" He says, "You're at your best when things are at their worst."
Yep.
Duh.
Yeah.
I mean, there it was.
We can do
Bam.
it.
But it's like, that is who we are.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no denying it. It takes a shake-up sometimes to get us out of our little routine.
This is a major shift.
Oh, yes. And right now we're in a shift.
That's what I mean. We are in a shift.
This is no 9/11, but
so this could happen.
This
could happen that we could all have that moment where
why
that
not
shift happens
revisit
again.
this after the why not use this 20th anniversary as an excuse to get back to the beautiful thing that was created from the horror of that day?
Yes.
The thing that was created was this amazing unity as Americans. It was unmistakable. It was palatable everywhere. I remember driving down the street. People were driving down the road with American flags on their cars, like shoved in the weirdest places because their car had no ability to have a flag. I mean, it was like, yeah, man. You know, and enough about, you know, I mean, the disrespect, you know, to the flag and everything else, that's got to go. It's got to stop, or go somewhere else where you can dig what they're doing somewhere else.
Right.
You know, this country, why do people, of all the countries in the world, where is the country that people are fighting to get into the hardest? This country. Why the heck is that? Because if you've been in one of those other countries, you would understand how great it is over here. But if you haven't been there, you really don't understand it. I would say one great thing about that I've been able to travel the world and to some obscure places is I've gotten to see the contrast. You have people like Dora, you know, that have come not from a horrible place, but from a country that has a very different cultural and political setup. That's, I mean, it's socialistic. I mean, if you think you're going to go into to live the life there that we live here, it's like stark contrast.
Yep.
And we
Dora,
don't appreciate
how many
it.
years did you fight to? Did you have to wait and go through all that to become an American citizen? 10 years? 20 years? Yep. That's pretty great. You happy?
but so where else on the earth?
All right, so you know what? It's getting late, and I just want to know if it's okay if we give some stuff away.
Oh, my God.
Is that okay?
All right.
All right. All right, I'm excited. Seth and Julianne Golden, I just want to say happy birthday to you one more time. And, of course, let's just sing happy birthday in Carrie Fisher style for Seth and Julianne Golden. Seth Robichaux, Julianne, this is for you. At the count of 3, everybody in here, let's do it. 1, 2, 3. I beat you.
You know, she tries to tell me that
It wasn't
post-COVID
pretty,
she
but I
doesn't
did
have
get
as
to
much
get
breath, but she certainly is full of hot air as ever.
You see, and he can say that, and I won't clock him because I love you, and that's just the way it is. And how about if I just come over there and kiss your face clean off? How about that?
How about that?
All right, we are ready. So here's how it works. For those of you who are new in the room, when you came in the room, you were assigned a number on the wheel. So the wheel is going to be spun. It will land on a number. That will be known as the wiener. Well, in other languages, it's called a winner. So now we're going to do that. Dora has recorded each and every one of you. So here we go. Number 1, Dora, spin that wheel. That's right. And
Oh, he's got the close-up.
29. And who is number 29?
Well, how would we know?
She wrote down every single name. Do you know how many names are in
No
here?
wonder you've been so
And
damn
there's a
busy.
lot of people here. Anna Harris, congratulations. You are the wiener, and you have won a Cat Cosmetics gift card for $25 that was donated lovingly by Francine Lobner. Francine Lobner, thank you so much. And I'm sorry, just one more time, the wiener? No. Anna Harris. Yes, Anna Harris. Congratulations. We are moving on to winner number 2.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Did we lose power?
Sort of.
Did we lose? Let's see.
No, just on the lights.
Oh. Your mom, again. Number two.
And it's weird because
Okay, but
you're
who's the
doing the
winner?
memorial and the lights go out.
The wiener. Lisa Frisco. Lisa Frisco.
San Francisco,
You have-
open your golden gates.
Seth Robichaux, you donated this after with everything you're going through. You are a heart and a soul.
What is it?
He donated the memorial program that was at Carrie and Debbie's Public Memorial. It has the program inside, a beautiful picture on the front, and a beautiful picture on the back. And it also comes with the bracelet that says, it's the bracelet that we gave the people
In line.
and that we're going to get into inside the building. So you get that, and you also get the pin, as she calls
The
it.
enamel pin.
The pin. Where is it? Did I drop it?
It dropped it.
Oh gosh. Well, you get this amazing pin that I'm
Well,
going to
just
show
hold
you in
up the
just a
Lucky
moment.
Hold up the LaTrance picture.
The picture? Oh, the pin is,
Is
this
that?
is what's on the pin. And it was something that you could only get at the memorial. And here it is. I don't know if you can hold that up because you're closer. And so you get the memorial, the bracelet, and the pin. And so thank you for Lisa Frisco, congratulations, and Seth Robichaux on your birthday. Thank you so much. And yes, number 4. Number 3, like I said. Number 3 is number, is that 60? I don't think we've ever hit 60. This is a first. Holly Skaggs, you are the winner. Is that right? Holly Skaggs, you are the winner. And you have won. Is this donated by Barb Cavern? Yes. You have won the CD of let's see, this is the Spiritual Reconnection Through Prayer, Spiritually Reconnecting Through Prayer, Hypnosis CD. If you have anxiety or can't sleep, you are going to love this. And if you have, has she won before? Holly Skaggs, yes. So we probably have it, but just in case, go ahead and give us your address. You can shoot me a message on Facebook Messenger, okay? The next wiener is, here we go. That's right. That's from the 1800s, so it is a little shaky.
Yes.
24. Who is the winner of number 24? Your mom is on it tonight, honey. 24. Yeah. Kathleen Anderson, you are the winner of Todd's book, My Girls. It is a great book if you have not read it, and if you want him to sign it to you, he will, or to whoever, if you would like to gift that to somebody else.
And
Todd
you can
will
read the
sign it.
9/11 story on page 285 and 286.
285 and 286, and that is donated by us, I think, right? Okay, so congratulations, and to make sure that I have your address if we don't already have it. Okay, we're going on to the next. 39. Who dat?
It is Carol DeWald.
Carol DeWald. Here we go. I'm going to show you what you have won. Oh, Barbara Hammond has donated this, and I know what it is. Let me feel it. Oh, this is really good. Barbara, thank you so much for donating this. And who won this? Carol DeWalt, you have won the most beautiful serum for your skin. It's the enzyme serum. You're going to love this. If you don't put anything else on your face with it, you're going to still love it. But if you put it on and then just let it sink in, it just takes a minute, and then you can moisturize after, or you can just use this. Enzyme serum is one of our most popular products at Cat Cosmetics. And Barbara Hammond, that is so nice of you to give. That's a very kind and generous gift. Thank you so much. Carol DeWald, you won. So here we go. We're going to go on to the next. And this is this donated by?
Number 47, that's donated by
Sharon Amorosa, who I know is in the room because I've been seeing you. Sharon Amorosa, thank you so much for this. You donated it, and it's. Oh, that's a new name. Angie Montalbo. Angie Montalbo, you are a new name for us. So I want
That
to.
sounds like a Colombian name.
Angie, it's a Latin name for sure.
Montalbo.
Montalbo, Angie
like
Montalbo.
Montalban, like
You have
Ricardo
won
Montalban.
You've won a personal cameo, and you can have that with Todd and I, or just me, or just Todd.
Oh no, I never offered that service up.
Yeah, you know what? I offered that
Did
service
you hear me just
for
get
you.
sucked into that
I offered that service for you.
I know, but
You know I would do
You
it
have
for
to
you.
call Bob
Angie
Lang.
Montalbo,
I'm calling my agent.
congratulations. And Sharon Amorosa, thank you
Yes,
so
Bob
much
Lang,
for
please.
donating.
Yes, I'm
calling
getting
a
suckered
lawyer.
into other things. Bob, what's in my contract
Okay,
about
we're going
these
to the
personal
next.
cameos?
And what number is this? Okay, it's in the line. Okay, that's weird when it lands in the line.
Well, it's not a rocket. It's not a perfect science here.
11, good number.
Yo, 11.
Ooh, Debbie Starr Jackson. Debbie Starr Jackson.
Oh, look at that.
You
Time
have
Warner.
won from our sponsor, Time Warner. You have won a DVD of The Unsinkable Molly Brown.
It's not just a DVD. That is a Blu-ray.
Blu-ray. So you have won that.
So if you don't have a Blu-ray player, you're going to have to go out and spend the money and get one.
No, Debbie. If you don't have a Blu-ray player, just go ahead and
tell us. We'll give you a
me.
DVD.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
But Debbie,
let me say
let
one
us know.
thing.
Yes.
Let me say something. The Molly Brown movie got remastered, and you know it's very expensive to remaster these and do the higher resolution. But that movie is phenomenal in high def like that. It really is a big, big improvement to be able to see that in high definition. And it was a big thing for them to choose that movie, because they only choose movies that they can sell enough of to justify that.
Right.
So our sponsor, Time Warner, gave us a few copies of that. So you're the lucky winner of the Blu-ray Molly Brown.
But Debbie Starr Jackson is in flux right now, so you let me know if that is something that works for you. And you know what? I just want to say,
do we have the regular DVD as well, or just the Blu-ray?
Just have the Blu-ray here, but maybe you haven't.
Maybe.
We went so far over time. I'm sorry about that, but for those of you that hung in there with us, thank you so much. And I can't think of anyone more that I'd rather spend this incredible day of remembrance with than you, and you, of course, and Dora and Johnny. We're back in the back. And so on this note, just know that to all the law enforcement, all the first responders, all of the military, we just love you. Thank you so much for making us feel safe and choosing that job and being heroes, because you are. Thank you so much. And to families that lost your loved ones, our heart is with you and we love you. And thank you so much, everybody. We will just let you say goodnight to each other. And let's find some little thing to play for them to say goodnight to each other.
You want something different?
Yes, something different.
Well, I have a whole repertoire.
Have a
of
great
things.
rest of the weekend. Take it easy on yourself. And I'll see you next week for sure. Good night, everybody.
I have
whatever you want. Interviewing people for Debbie. So that's nice. And also, so what I'd really like to do is, you have enough light here? Is everything good? Would you mind if I stand up to you for a moment? No. Good. No, and I want you too, because you're a mother. Yeah, this is your Okay, good. Well, so what I'd like to ask is, where are you from? Cleveland, Ohio. And of course, I live here in Los Angeles. Okay. And so what brought you down here today?
I was just very excited to be able to see these costumes firsthand. I've seen so many of these movies, just growing up, and I have images of what they would look like in my head. So it's actually extremely exciting to be able to come here and look at them firsthand.
Excuse me. And let me ask you, because you're much younger. And how old are you?
I'm 29.
Okay. So what do these costumes mean to you?
They're amazing. The intricacy, the detail. I mean, they're classic. It's
you know, you have these iconic film roles and the iconic movies, and then to see the actual costumes, which sometimes they make a scene, they make a character, and to see them in real life is just amazing.
And what would you say if I told you that Hollywood told Debbie that nobody would want to see these costumes, that these are just old clothes no one would want to see?
You're wrong. I'd say that they're crazy, and I would send them to my mother, a psychiatrist, for a referral.
Exactly. You're a psychiatrist?
Yes, I am.
Right. So that's crazy thinking.
It's absolutely crazy thinking. These are beautiful. It's like stepping back in time, and everybody has memories attached to different films that they've seen, and to see these costumes in person elicits some very warm feelings, some coziness, some hominess inside.
Well, thank you so much. What would you like to say to Debbie?
Oh, Debbie, I wish you all the best with this, truly.
You
Good
can tell
job.
her right there.
Good job, Debbie. Truly. I commend you. My hat off to you for spending so much time and effort and so much of your own money over the years collecting all these gorgeous, gorgeous costumes. I think the country deserves or should be thanking you, actually.
Yes.
These are historic pieces.
Well, I thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes.
Enjoy it.
Thank you. We will.
All right. And I know you said you're a writer about options and film.
I'm a writer and a film historian.
Okay. So, would you tell me what it means to see these costumes, what it makes you feel like, what your emotions are?
Well, it's a once-in-a-lifetime event, and it's very sad for me. When I was a little girl, I kind of thought that everybody sang and danced just like they did in musicals.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish life was that way. And I think Debbie has that kind of heart, that life is like those musicals MGM made. And she's put so much work, effort, and her heart and soul in creating a museum, and there really should be a museum here in Hollywood. It's a shame.
Yes.
It's a downright shame.
Yes. And so it makes you feel good to watch these little flips and see the...
When I turned around the corner and saw Clark Gable's jacket from Gone with the Wind, my heart went pip-pip, and was unexpected, you know. But yes, it's beautiful. It's lovely to see, but I would love this to be out for everyone to see for all time, not just for 1 day or a couple of days.
And if I told you that when Debbie tried to get this museum made and Hollywood produced people that basically said to her, you know, Debbie, nobody wants to see these old clothes. What did you say to that?
Well, I say that that's true. I've heard that, and I know she tried to do something in Las Vegas when she was showing it there. I think as patrons, as fans, we have to take part of that too. We need to take part, because it has been in the news for years that she's tried to put this museum together.
But the people can't do it because it would take a lot. I don't see it. So don't you tell me Hollywood should step up and done something?
Absolutely, and I think there's enough money here, still even with the recession,
Okay.
that there's some...
what your feelings are looking at these. Being, you know, how old are you, more or less, in your 20s? 17 and 18 years old, and you came all the way from Corona, California.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm obsessed with Julie Andrews, so I had to come to see her dress and her guitar. So, yeah, I had to come. Like, when I found out,
that's the main reason.
yeah, that's the main reason, yeah. And she likes Dorothy.
Wizard of Oz stuff, that's right. That was my main reason.
Right.
That's why I
You?
Sound of Music.
Yeah.
She's my best friend, and I know that she's obsessed. So
Yeah.
we decided we
Right.
would drive her out.
I-
Yeah.
Right.
Hi.
And so what would you say if did it make you want to cry?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's okay, because actually it made me cry the other day, so you're not alone. What would you say if I told you that Hollywood basically told Debbie that no one would ever really want to see these old clothes? What would you say?
Yeah, see, nothing.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say anything.
Let
Yeah,
alone
speechless.
17 and 18-year-old girls.
Yeah.
So are they right?
Definitely. No, they're
Wait,
not
no,
right.
no.
We love
No,
seeing this
yeah.
stuff. It's just amazing to us, and especially
It's like an
since
honor.
we've watched like these older movies, like with our parents and stuff. It's been like a part of our childhood, kind of. So
Right.
It's like an honor to be able to see all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was gonna take my grandma, but she had too much to do.
Right.
But,
And so after tomorrow, all these things will be gone because the auction is happening, and they might even be leaving the country because so many buyers from out of the country will be buying. So what do you think about that?
Very sad. Because, I don't know, it's just such a part of like history and everything. And I definitely thought they should have made like a museum out of it rather than like auctioning it all off, because it's so like important to like American like culture. It's like, and I would like to like bring my kids back to see some of this stuff, because I'm sure I'll show them these kind of movies and stuff too. So when it's all gonna be gone, I just want to see.
That's right. And so would you do me a favor, because if you just look into that camera right
Anything you'd ever seen, so I think he'd love to say a few
I
words.
would like to hear from you. Okay, let me just make sure I'm out of the way. Okay, good. All right.
Robert Mack.
Okay.
And where are you from? I'm from Southern California.
Okay. And how old are you?
12.
You're 12 years old. Wow, I think you might be the youngest person I've met today here. Why does this interest you?
Well, I've been seeing old movies ever since I was 5, 6 years old, and they've enchanted me so. The musicals, the dramas, the screwball comedies of the 30s. And to see all this stuff now, the props and the costumes of the movies that I've seen, and the fact that they're actually going to be auctioned away quite shortly, it's something to think about.
Yes. And so, given the fact that Debbie has tried now for almost 40 or 50 years to get a museum made, and she just couldn't. She bought all these costumes and things and spent her whole life doing that. And they said, Debbie, nobody wants to see those old clothes. What would you say to those people in Hollywood that could have helped her but did not, and told her that no one would be interested in coming to a museum to see this?
Well, I mean, some people appreciate old movies more than others. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I don't know, maybe they have their reasons. Maybe they were just, it was financially difficult. But if I were in their shoes, I'd do it.
Yes. Well, I think that you are an extraordinary young man, and I am so thrilled to meet you. And I would like to know if you would like to say something to Debbie Reynolds. I'm going to have you look into the camera there and say something to Debbie, and if you want to thank her.
Debbie Reynolds, thank you for the entertainment. Thank you for entertaining the whole family. Thank you very much.
Get the father for this.
That's right.
I want to thank you so much. And in case that we use this for the documentary being made about Debbie's life, would it be all right? Do I have your permission to use his interview?
Yes, you do.
Thank you.
So he's come back 3 days in a row. He's come back 3 days.
Much. Spend as much time as you like and enjoy it. Thank you. Oops, sorry.
Thing.
Yeah, look at the lines down here.
Years old in a child's body, the wisdom of a man of 80.
His language, his